Do you allow yourself to dream, like really dream, just totally audacious, I'm gonna fucking go there kind of dreams? The kind of dreams that you almost feel you have no business even dreaming about, thinking about. It's the solar eclipse today, and everywhere you look, they're talking about how powerful this is. And not only for the dreams and future kind of thing, or in a way also what you should leave behind. But I've just thought a lot about all of this with dreams for a long, long time. Because when I was younger, I think I had a lot of dreams. And I think I had more than most of the people I surrounded myself with, especially my friends. But and I had that for a while. But the older I got, especially after 30, I think, probably around the time where I began to have a lot of struggles with adult life, then it became less and less. So it got harder for me to actually dream, especially big dreams. I could think of something realistic, but the huge dream, just go there, I couldn't. And it's only, I don't know, in the last 6-ish month, I think it's only this year that those kinds of dreams are beginning to come back. And it just gets me thinking about how many people don't have access to this side of themselves. They don't allow themselves to go there. And I think actually most of the people in my life now don't have this. They don't really have those like huge, scary dreams. Maybe they're dreaming about, publishing a book or get a raise, or I don't know, find the love of their life. And that's perfectly fine. I want all of that as well. The raise I want to come from something else than a corporate job, but still. But bigger than that, that's not really a thing for almost all of them. And it's such a funny thing that we somewhere along the way just decided what was doable, what was possible, and what wasn't. So we don't even allow ourselves to go there. And I think it makes sense that you close down for that, that part of you like goes into a coma kind of. If you're struggling a lot, if you have a lot of trauma and just are in total fight or flight all of the time, your nervous system is completely fried, it makes sense that that is not something your system spends energy on, because it takes a lot and you're just basically trying to survive. So it makes sense. But it's also kind of interesting to see when you begin to come out of this and your mind begins to go there. And for my situation, or for me, I'm beginning to have some of these bigger dreams, but it's still not the kind of, it is a big stretch from where I am now, but it's not this completely impossible thing. Some of it actually feels a little bit impossible, like growing up or creating or building a very, very, very successful business, helping other people. It does feel a little bit delusional, especially to the point where I'm actually dreaming of doing it, where it's not just, you know, to have a good kind of life, or I want the good life, but I also want to make more money than I know. I don't know anyone who makes that kind of money. It's not something that is very common, especially not in the circles I'm in at the moment or have been in the past. So there is these kinds of dreams, and it's only very recently I'm actually beginning to say them out loud and without the level of apology I would normally do, or without all the buts. So just say, well, I want to make a lot of money and I actually don't want to apologize for that. I have worked so much with my beliefs around money. Not that they're all gone, because they're not, I know, but I have worked so much on this, so I am more okay with saying I want this, and it's not gonna make me a bad person. It's not gonna, have all these kinds of effects. But it still feels a bit scary, and it's still, like a few days ago, I even made a video about wanting to leave my corporate job to build a business with the help of YouTube. And it's not very long ago I wouldn't have admitted that, especially because at the time I had 14 followers. 14! Today I have 19, so it's just right around the corner, as you can see. So that seems kind of delusional, that to sit there and say to anyone, well, to the whole world basically, not that anyone listen, or not that the whole world is listening, hence my 14 followers, but still, just they could actually listen, and I could just broadcast it everywhere. I could put it on a billboard just somewhere, and just for the world to see that I am delusional. I think I can take my 14 followers and then just create a business within a short amount of time. So just saying that out loud, or just saying that, well, I want a house just by the beach with the love of my life, and I want this amazing life and house. Not that it has to be fancy, but it's not going to be a small house. It's not going to be a tiny garden. It's not going to be 15 minutes from the beach. It's going to be at the beach, or very, very close to the beach. And it's going to have this amazing space just inside and outside. And it's going to be with the man of my dreams, kind of. These things, it's also very, very recent that I'm actually allowing myself to go there, allowing myself to say, well, this is actually what I want. This is what I'm dreaming of. Even if I'm single right now and have a huge amount of debt, and I'm not raised in a family where we had a house. Most of my life, also growing up, we lived in pretty small apartments. So we have never had this, never had this garden, never had this. And it was not even, homes we owned. No, it was rent. And I don't come from money. I don't come from a family where we had any of these things. And I definitely didn't come from a relationship between my parents where it was healthy and something to aspire to. And that is not even something I've seen like in anyone I know. No one I know, I think, have the kind of relationship I want. So allowing yourself to say, well, this is what I want and this is what I'm gonna have, without apologizing for it and without the buts after, it is pretty new and pretty scary. And I'm just thinking a lot about this with what we allow ourselves, where we allow ourselves to go, what we allow ourselves to dream about, and what we decide or someone else decides or say, this is not possible, or you need to be more realistic. Because if someone says that to you, for instance, even if it's yourself, then it's like, who is actually the judge of what is possible and what is not? What is possible for you and what is possible just in general? Who decides? Who is the judge of that? And that is, I think it's such an interesting thing that someone can say this to us and they don't have the kind of life we want, because most likely you don't know anyone who has that if you really allow yourself to go there. But still, we very often take that in as confirmation that we're asking for too much, that this is not realistic, this is not doable for someone like us. But if you look around, people do and achieve and get all kinds of crazy shit. Like if you think of some of the richest people in the world, it's insane. It's just so completely out there, so you don't even have a clue. And it's not even only about money, it's just lifestyle, or if it's the health or the body or the relationship or the home or whatever. There's so much out there, all the possibilities in the world, and still we allow someone totally random to just say, well, no, this is not something you can do. That's not possible. You need to be more realistic. You need to dial yourself down. You need to be more modest. But who says? Are they the judge? Did someone actually appoint them? You're the judge of what people can achieve. You should be the judge of what everyone can achieve, or decide who can do this and who can't, and who's worthy, and when when you're asking too much or when it's just enough. And when you think about it, I think like that, it just becomes so obvious that this is just, again, something we made up. Someone decided something for themselves, and then you take it as confirmation that you can't do this. And I have totally been the same. Totally, and still am to some extent, but really practicing just saying the thing I want and just let it be there, even if it feels a little bit uncomfortable and something I doubt frequently. Because, okay, am I just being delusional? Or am I not being delusional enough? Because why should I be? Or who gets to decide what I can achieve or what I can't achieve? And it got me thinking about when, about 15 years ago or something, I took this coaching course. And it was, I don't remember that much about it, other than it was very interesting. I think I was, I don't know, in the middle of my 20s or end or something. But one of the things that really stuck with me was this model, coaching model called the Disney model. And I loved that model. I thought it was so amazing. And it was basically just saying to the person you're coaching, this is very simplified because it's a long time ago and I don't remember, but the central part of it was just, if anything was possible, what would you want? Just, you can choose everything, and you don't need to concern yourself about how it's gonna happen or when or nothing like that. So pretty much like quantum physics, actually, as I have come to learn recently. But if you allow yourself to have this thought, like if anything was possible, there's no limitations, nothing at all. And you don't need to figure out how or when or nothing like that. You only need to decide what you want, and then that's it. And when you really allow yourself to do that, because it can be a bit difficult if you're not used to thinking like that. But if you keep pushing yourself, okay, so is this what I want, or do I actually want? If I was free to choose everything, would I dial it up even more? Actually, would I ask for even more? And then if you're just get more clear about what you actually want, if everything was an option and there was no limits, then you can actually just more easily reverse engineer and figure out a way to just at least take the first steps towards it. Okay, so I want to, build my dream business. Okay, what would the first step look like? Or how could this actually be a doable thing now? And you can still, aspire to the big thing, but just begin to open your mind about all of this. And I also just, it's that's gonna create so much better dreams or results than just staying to what is realistic and what other people think you're allowed to want or have or can achieve. And I've just come across all these questions lately about building the future you and getting clear about where you're going, of course, but also just if you were that version of you, if you think you're that version today or tomorrow, how would your everyday life look like? How would your perfect morning look like, or day? What kind of habits would you have and not have? How would you carry yourself? How would you just move around in the world? How would you make your decisions? What is the most important for you in your life? Who is with you? How would your relationships look like? To just get so specific as possible. What would you eat even, or where would you travel, or what? It doesn't even have to be the big things, just the very small things that makes up the day and your week and your life, basically, because that's all life is, right? Just a series of little teeny tiny events that just merge and become your life and become the big stuff as well. And also just But if you were that person, if you had that life now, what would you not be doing? What kind of things wouldn't you say to yourself? Or what kind of people wouldn't you allow into your life anymore? Is there something is there some bad habits you would quit because that's not aligned with who you are? Probably, for most of us, there is some stuff we would do differently if we were the highest version of ourselves. I know there is, for me at least. And I think that's a really interesting just little thought experiments. How would it look like, and would you do you allow yourself to go there? And what are you really willing to release? What versions of you would you release? Because if you have been in constant survival for all of your life, probably, or a lot of it, that's not going to be the one, that's not going to be the version of you that is gonna bring you to your amazing future. You need to fix that before you can go there. The version of you who got you here won't get you there. And it's both simple and hard at the same time to do the necessary things or release the necessary patterns or beliefs when you're still in your own old life. But it doesn't have to be. So if you picture yourself like the highest version of you, the future you, the one who has everything you're dreaming of. If you think, well, I think if I lived that life, if I was that person, I would wake up and meditate or move my body or journal or eat the nourishing food. That is actually something you can do today. It's not something that just magically shows up when you're that version of you, because that version of you is not something you just snap your fingers and then you just implement all the good habits or remove all the bad ones. That's actually something you have to do consciously. And as long as you're not willing to do that, your life is not going to change. So all of this about manifesting and that kind of thing, it's in many places it just gets so simplified. You can just ask and then you will be given. But if you dream of being a multimillionaire or something, have a successful business, well, it's not going to just drop in your lap. Unfortunately, well, you actually need to create that business or do the thing you actually want to make money from, because otherwise it can't really show up, can it? Or if you want to meet the love of your life, you actually need to go outside, unless it's just the delivery guy that knocks on your door with the fifth burger this week or whatever. You actually need to do something or be open to it. You actually need to see what's out there. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. Or if you keep carrying around all these beliefs about yourself and old patterns that are not working so good for you, you're not just going to create the healthy, amazing relationship just by asking for it. Because that kind of healthy, amazing, handsome, whatever partner you actually you want. Why would they choose someone who feels like crap about themselves and don't even have a healthy relationship with themselves, or is not capable of having the tough conversations, or whatever it is, whatever the problem is, or that's, and I have really also learned that the hard way, that until you work on those things, well, you can say you want it all you want, but it's not going to change until you do. But it is doable. And the more I learn about everything from like quantum physics to just universe to people to all of it, the more I believe that there is not much that is not possible if you're willing to actually do it, or ask for it, and also take the steps needed to get there. But I think the first step is to actually allow yourself to have these dreams. That was a lot of talk about everything. I hope it made sense if you got this far. It couldn't have been totally terrible, but I hope it resonated. I found it extremely fascinating, and it's really something I work a lot with in my own life, because I can see how much it's holding us back, and how it's keeping us small and keeping us in a life that's a lot smaller than we actually want it to be. And I don't know about you, but I don't want that anymore. I want to actually just see where I can do, or who I can be, what I can do, who I can help. Just without the limits, without the be realistic, just do what you can and see where you're gonna end up. And I know from my own experience that the more you work on these things, the stories you have and the patterns you have that are holding you back, the more free you're gonna feel, and the more easily you will be able to achieve these things. So I am looking forward to doing that. I'm trying not to think too much about the how and the when and all of that, because that is not really something I can control. So thank you very much for listening. I hope it resonated in some way, and I would love to hear about your dreams, or if you allow yourself to dream, or what have changed for you and how you see all of this. I would love to hear it. So otherwise, thank you for listening. Take care, and see you, hopefully. Bye.